So I'm going to go over our objectives for our webinar. So we're going to talk to y'all today about connecting our district goals and frameworks, evaluate and adjust management settings to meet district needs, add district goals to track and settings for reporting, and access PD reports and analytics, as well as examine Richardson's ISD's great use of our professional learning site. So our agenda for today is going to be talking about these categories in our professional learning and really leaning into some really amazing features that you will be able to use in professional learning.
All right, thank you, Allison. We're going to start out with some options that you can set up in management from the beginning, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And as Allison said earlier, we have Gaia Jefferson with us today from Richardson ISD. Welcome, Gaia, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paige and Dr. Ross, for the opportunity.
We really appreciate your time, and we're going to talk first about something that you guys are doing, identifying groups. So do you want to tell us what you've done and how you've set it up?
Absolutely, Paige, and thank you again for the opportunity. With Eduphoria Strive, we thought that it would be relevant for us to have our teachers go inside when they are setting up their profile to identify if they are a novice teacher, apprentice, practitioner, or a veteran teacher. This information helps our teaching and learning department to customize specific professional learning for our first year teachers and for our veteran teachers. It really just models how we try to differentiate professional learning for our educators. And as we pull custom reports, and I'll show a report later on, this allows us to tailor specific courses so that veteran teachers are not hearing the same information that they may have heard the year before. So it's been working well for us. Thanks, Paige.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And there are a couple of ways that you can identify groups. The way that Richardson has done it is by creating schools for their different groups. So they have in their management system a school called novice, a school called apprentice, a school called practitioner, and a school called veteran. And there are some pros and cons to setting it up different ways. So I wanted to talk about that just a little bit. One way is by doing it with schools, which is how Richardson has set theirs up. The other way would be by doing custom fields that could be added into the system. So I want to talk about the pros and cons just a little bit. Schools and custom fields both, you'll notice the first pro is underlined for both of them. They can both be filtered for reporting purposes. So if that's why you're wanting to do this, you can get the information out of reports doing it both ways, but there are some differences. With schools, it creates a group that can be used for enrollment. So you could go in as an instructor. I could say, I want to enroll everybody in the novice group in my session. And I could do that on the attendees tab because I would have a school group that was automatically created for me. Also, if you choose to, you can import that school's information so that you're assigning them to that school rather than using self-selection, but you have that choice of importing or self-selection. With custom fields, the pros are that you can set it to require completion by the participants or by the course creator and instructor. It depends on the need. So it could be something that the creator checks off, or it could be something that the attendee checks off. It does not add another item to the list on reports. So it's not going to like show up in other places as a school. And it can be limited to specific course types. The cons, and there are some for both of them as well. For schools, it adds that school to all of your views and reports. So it's going to look like a school. It's going to show up anytime you'll have all your campuses listed, and then you'll have those groups listed as well, which isn't necessarily a problem, just a thing you should be aware of. And then with custom fields, you cannot enroll people based on a custom field, and you can't import them. Self-selection is the only choice there. So both of them would work for this particular application. I think Richardson chose to do schools, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Gaia, because you wanted to be able to enroll people, and the schools gives you that enrollment option.
That is absolutely correct, Paige. And again, once we pull our reports, it really does help us to identify how many novice teachers we have, how many are veterans, and so on forth.
Absolutely. Okay, so those are a couple of options. I wanted to talk about custom fields for just another second because I want to talk about another use case for it. It could be used for that, identifying those user groups, but we had a request from another district that wanted to know, how can I track the reason for rescheduling courses? We're having to reschedule a bunch of stuff and we want to know a little bit more about that. So they created a custom field called rescheduled, and they set it up for the course creator or instructor to be the one to complete it. So attendees don't have anything to do with this. But if a course is rescheduled, then they would choose, was it rescheduled because of low enrollment, because of a facilities conflict, or because of an other meetings conflict? And we know how that happens. You know, you got something planned and then the superintendent schedules a meeting and you got to make a change. So they would choose the reason for that. And so then you can look at a report to see what are the trends there. Well, we have a large number that's happening because of low enrollment. What can we do about that? So that's another way that you could use it. And then with custom fields, when you set it up, this is what it would look like in the interface. We'd go to custom fields. We'd create one called rescheduled. It has your options here. What is it that they're going to choose from? None, low enrollment, facilities conflict, or other meeting conflict. And then you get to decide, what does it apply to? So there wouldn't be a reschedule of an e-course or of a professional development level or an outside workshop. Those are things that happen, don't have a calendar connection at all. So I've only applied it to standard courses and school courses. And then the custom action would be that the field is hidden from attendees. Only the person, you know, submitting it would see it, and it would be submitted by the manager, not by the attendee. So you can control kind of who sees those custom fields, who completes those custom fields, and then you can get reports on them. So the schools example for the groups could also apply to custom fields, but custom fields could be for a variety of other things as well. So anything that you want to track data on and be able to report on, you've got a couple of options for doing that. I also wanted to talk about adding district goals, which is an option that not all of our districts even know about. It's something that you have to turn on. So you would go to the general options tab and make sure that you've enabled district goals. If you go to your system and you don't see goals in the list here under the management tools, then that means it's not enabled for your district, but it's anybody who's a professional development administrator has the ability to go in to the general options and enable that. In this example, I have two different sets of goals created for the district. I have the Learning Forward standards for professional development, and I also have the district strategic goals for my district set up in there. And so once you give them a name, you can go in and number them and type in what the goal text is. And you can see these are some of the Learning Forward standards that I'm looking at right here. Yeah, that's what those are. So I'm looking at the Learning Forward standards, and I could just type those in, add as many different goals as I need to. And then on the course side, this screenshot on the lower right-hand corner, I'm actually in a course. I would go to the credits and categories section and go to course goals. And then you'll see I could select either the Learning Forward standards or the district strategic goals and check the goals that apply. So it's like tagging the dimensions, but it's not in the dimensions section. It's in the course goals section, but I'm just going to tag any of the goals that apply to that course. And again, there is a report option based on goals that we'll look at a little bit later on that lets you see how many courses have you provided that are related to those district goals or whatever professional development goals, whatever goals you have. You can set up any kind that you want. And then you can also see how many staff members have attended based on those different goals. So it's another way for you to get some data out of the system. Again, once you go into the course, you'd be able to check off the goals. This is just another example showing the district goals. All right, let's talk about categories and professional development levels. These are two options that allow you to guide your users. So the first one I want to talk about is professional development levels. And it's sort of like a learning path. I can go in and create the levels. Again, this has to be turned on at the district level. So if you're not seeing it as an option in your system, then you need to go to the general options tab, and it can be turned on there. You can create whatever categories you want. Again, there's some things to know, and we'll kind of distinguish between this and the categories option. With professional development levels, you need to have a credit type so that you can specify exact courses that are going to count. If you don't have a credit type, it would just be a certain number of hours equals that level, but it could be hours in anything. So if you're wanting to be really directing them in a specific area, you would need a credit type to go along with it. So you can see, well, I was going to see if I have one over here. And I don't see that I have one for my setup in here that's going to show that. Normally, like for the flex credit total, I would have a credit type showing there that's the type of credit I'm giving. That way, when they search for that credit type in the catalog, they're going to get courses that will give them credit for this particular level. The other thing to know is that the users need to request this, like an outside credit request. Even though it tells you down here you can set it to automatically grant that credit, it says once requirements are earned, it probably should say earned and requested, because they do have to request the credit. But if they request it and they already have the hours, it will automatically grant that credit, but they have to fill out that request. And then it does show at the top of their profile so they can see when they have achieved and been granted one of those professional development levels. We have a link here, and you'll get the slides after the session, and you'll be able to go in and look at some articles about managing professional development levels if that's something that you're interested in. Again, we talked about some pros and cons of setting it up as a professional development level, and Richardson has gone the category route. So Gaia, would you like to talk about what y'all have done with your system?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paige. For the categories, in Richardson, we have a learner framework. And for each of the phases within the learner framework, the first one is ignite, wonder and discover, collaborate, apply and create, and then reflect. And so we thought that it was very necessary for us to have professional learning for our adults connected to the phases within that learner framework. So what you can see is that whenever adults are searching through the professional learning catalog, they can click on any of those boxes if they want to learn more about our all of the learner framework phases, and they can click the first box. But if they really wanted to drill down to a specific phase, then they could. And after they clicked on that, then professional learning offerings that are tagged to those phases would populate for them to register and enroll. So we really do like this feature inside of Strive. And we hope to navigate that and use it even more so in the future. So thanks, Paige. Turning it back over to you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do have another slide with some examples of actual sessions. So like what your framework phrase was, an example of a session that might be listed there. So they've tied those particular courses in the catalog to that category in their framework, so that when I search for that framework, I'm going to see those specific types of courses. Okay, let's talk about staff rollout a little bit. How do we get people to enroll? How do they find our courses? Gaia has talked about a couple of options. I've talked about a couple of options. The first is, of course, the course catalog. Users can always go to the catalog and they can search by keyword. They can search by T-test dimension. It will say framework over there. They can search by category, which is what Gaia was just talking about. Going in and finding those categories that they set up for their users to guide them to the courses that they need. They could search by credit type, which would also help if you were doing professional development levels, to be able to find that credit type that's tied to that level and the courses that are going to give me that level. They can search by date, and we do have a new calendar feature that they can go in and actually click on a calendar to search by date now. And they can also search by course type. So if they are looking specifically for eCourses rather than face-to-face, they can search by that also. So it gives them lots of ways that they can go into the catalog and find that information. We just want to make sure that we are using good keywords in the course titles, and that we're using categories as much as possible to help guide them, or credit types, and helping them to find those items. You can also email a link. So every course that you create generates a URL at the bottom of the main page. That's like the first thing that happens. And you can hide the course from the catalog so that the link is the only way that registrants can sign up if that's what you want. So if you have an email group and you only want the people in your email group to attend your session, you can hide it in the catalog so nobody else can find it and jump in. And you can email the link to your group, and they're the only ones who have that link. So they're the only ones who can sign up for the course. So that gives you a way to kind of control the enrollment if you want to. And then you can also pre-enroll users on the attendees tab. So when you go to the attendees tab, you can go in and type names in individually and one at a time enroll them, or you can enroll them based on system groups or district groups. And that's one of the options that Richardson has, because they set up their levels, their novice, and all of the other levels that they have. Because they set those up as schools, they have a system group for them, and they could go and enroll all of those people from that attendees tab. Or you can import users from a spreadsheet. So if you have, again, that group of users that you work with and you have all of their email addresses, you could import them and enroll them that way. So that gives you a lot of different ways to get people in.
Paige, we have some great questions. Paige and Gaia, we have some great questions in the chat. I was wondering if we wanted to go over those real
Sure.
quick. So
Yeah.
our first question is this available with regular Eduphoria or premium?
So everything in Strive is in Strive. So Aware does have a premium level, but these are all features that are there as part of regular Strive. That regular Strive is the only Strive.
And also, the question is, will the system allow or track badges and or micro-credentials?
We don't have badges within our system. We do have an article in our online help guide about using eCourses for badges. It's from a district that set up a system where they have people enroll in eCourses and share what they have done to earn the badge. But there's not a badging system within Strive, because there's not a public facing place to put a badge. So there's not a place where you would be able to see an actual badge. Now, the professional development levels do show up in their portfolio. So there's going to be a line item in their portfolio that can have whatever icon you add to that professional development level. It's visible to the end user, and it's visible to the appraiser or a professional development administrator, but you have to go into their portfolio to see it. And that would be from the professional development levels. So I guess that might be considered micro-credentialing, but I'm not sure if I answered that or not.
The last question we got was, can you walk through how to turn on goals or just talk to us about it? I know we're going to go into that a little bit, but perfect. Yes.
I can do that really quickly. So I'm going to go over to my workshop settings. I don't know why it's taking me. Well, it's not taking me out. So if I go to workshop settings, let me get out of here for just a sec and go back. Okay. When I go to workshop settings, and I did that by clicking on the gear there by professional learning, I'm going to click on workshop setup and then general options. And when I click on general options, I will see all of the features that are available in professional development. If I go into goals integration and I say disable this feature, it's going to show as disabled. And now goals is going to disappear from my list. So when I refresh up here, goals will not be in my list anymore. When I go into workshop setup and I go to general options, you can see goals is gone from my list over here on the left. If I enable it again, enable this feature, and I'll save it up here, and I'll do a refresh again, and that's going to put goals back in my list. So in my demo site, I have everything turned on. So I could see the goals right here. I can see all of the features that are available. Your district may not have all of those features turned on. Professional development levels is a feature that has to be turned on, and so is goals. And you can see over here on the left, I have PD levels viewable here, and I have goals viewable right here. So you can, anyone who has professional development administrator role can go in and see those features and enable or disable them as needed for your district.
All right. Those are great questions. Y'all keep them coming. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Paige. Back to you.
Okay. I have a couple more things about registration, and then Gaia, if you have anything that you want to share about registration, please feel free to jump in.
Okay.
Courses appear in the catalog based on the published parameters set by the district or course creator. So if you don't make a change, then your district decided that everything would be published 3 weeks in advance or 10 weeks in advance or 10 months in advance or whatever the district decides in terms of the publishing. And the same is true for enrollment. Those are district default settings that can be changed one course at a time if you have a need to change that. Registration links, and we talked about how there's a link for every course, and I'll go back over here and click on my course manager and go to a sample course. And on the main screen for every course down at the bottom, there's going to be that URL, and that is generated as soon as the course is created. Those links could be added to a calendar event in facilities and events, or used wherever you are publishing other professional development information. And then for larger professional learning events, you might consider using Strive conferences, which is another feature.
Yes, Paige, is it okay for me to just share how we've leveraged the conference feature?
Absolutely.
We have leveraged it with all of our conferences that we've had in the 23-24 school year. Most recently with our Bloom conference for over 400 paraprofessionals. And all we did was simply highlight the URL link, and we turned it into like a QR code, and they were able to register for the conference and then select all of the sessions that they wanted to attend. We also use the conference feature for our district-wide professional learning days, and all of the educators have found it very easy to navigate. So yes, 2 thumbs up for the Strive conference feature. We love it. Back to you, Paige.
And we love hearing that. Okay. Gaia, I'm going to send it back to you because y'all have done a good job of using naming conventions.
Yes.
And I want you to share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Whenever our colleagues are searching for professional learning, we thought that it was necessary for us to have a naming convention system in our organization because we have tons of different roles in our school district and departments that support all of them. So if you are a self-contained teacher and you are focused on math, then you're going to search for content, math, specifically for 5th grade. And so they are easily able to search the catalog to find what they need so that they can register. And let me also remind you that they can also search by using those learner framework phases. So the more it's easy for them to navigate and search that catalog, the easier it's going to be for them to register for their course and attend the session that they really, really need. Back to you, Paige.
That is an excellent point, Gaia, because we don't all think the same way. Some of us are mouse clickers, and some of us are keyboard shortcut people, and some of us are keyword searchers. So whatever options you can give them, and the more options available, you're going to help more people to find what they're looking for. So great job with that.
Thank you.
I also want to talk a little bit about calendars. Allison, did you have a question for us?
We do. We have one quick little follow-up question to our goals. If we can just address it real quick. Should the goals section be mainly for district campus goals and not goals for each course offering?
Correct.
Great question.
So they're going to be district campus goals that you would align your professional development to. So what is a strategic goal for your district, and how is your professional development furthering that goal for your district or for the campus, either one?
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about calendars just a little bit. There, we've talked about ways that you can search, but you can also create a public-facing calendar. Richardson uses facilities and events for this purpose. And Gaia, would you like to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing?
Sure thing, Paige. We love this feature. And the reason that we love it is our colleagues, they do use facilities and events to make their room reservations, but we really wanted to have a calendar that we could share internally with our organization so that they can see on any given day what professional learning is taking place. And so we have actually, Paige trained us on how to publish the calendars. And so since we've been doing this, it has helped people to lessen the duplication of trying to provide professional learning for the same audience. Because what we heard in the past was, principals are being pulled for training in the morning, the afternoon, and on the same day, and they have to decide which one to go to. So this really does help our learning organization to be more unified and make sure that we prioritize our audiences and make sure that they're not having to choose which professional learning to attend. So it's been very beneficial for us in Richardson. Back to you, Paige.
Thank you. A couple more things about calendars. Gay mentioned they're using theirs internally. It could be internal or external, either one. One of the things that I think is super helpful about the facilities and events calendar is if you're already using facilities and events to schedule the room, you've already got it in there once. You don't want to have to go to some other place and put it on a calendar where people can see it. So you just click the publish button, it's on a calendar, and then you put that calendar where you want it to be. And that can be they have theirs internally so their department can see it. It could be external. And I have an example of an F&E calendar that's been embedded into a website, so that this could be part of my campus website or my district website, where I've just dropped the calendar in there and any events that were on that calendar would show up here. So it can be as public or private as you want it to be, but it's if I've already put the information in facilities and events, then I can just publish it there and not have to do another thing to get my stuff out in a calendar. Okay, let's talk about reporting. And we've alluded to some reports. Gay is going to talk about some things that they do in Richardson, and then I'm going to share a couple of other things.
Thanks, Paige. I went ahead and added 3 screenshots of some reports that we pull and share with colleagues. This first one is actually around the goals that they set, the T-test goals that they set at the very beginning of the year. Teachers go in the month of September after they have met with their appraisers, and they actually leverage the T-test rubric, and then they attach their goals to those dimensions. You can also see the goal statement in there that says like C1, that's connected to our learner framework as well. And so we really wanted to leverage our district improvement plan along with our learner framework and T-test to make sure that teachers had a laser focus on what they needed to focus on. And so we use this report and share it with everyone in central office who leads professional learning. So now they know what type of professional learning to offer connected to their goals. Next slide, please, Paige. We also follow the same approach with our paraprofessionals. Even though they don't use the T-test rubric, they still do have an evaluation component. And so we leverage their goals that they have indicated in their work to provide professional learning for them as well. And you can see that notated on this slide. Next slide, please. And this last one is just a report, and it is part of the custom professional development report, and Paige is probably going to talk more about that, but we visit this report design very often. And so you can see in this example, we just pulled up the title and then the learner framework phase that is connected to that session. And so this helps us to determine, one, how many offerings we provided teachers, because sometimes they may say, oh, I'm searching for courses and I don't see enough offered around Wonder and Discover. And so if that is the case, then we as a collective team come together and create professional learning that is aligned to their needs. So I've talked about the campus report for teachers, for paraprofessionals, and then overall internally. I hope this helps. I'm going to turn it back over to Paige.
I think those are all good use cases for the reports. You're right. I am going to talk about the custom PD report. Gaia mentioned that that's what she used to pull that learner framework. And I'm going to jump into my system and just show you what it would look like. I want to go into reports under professional learning, and I'm going to go down to the custom professional development report. This one allows me to make the decisions about what information I want to have. So I can say I want the title of the course. I want the start date. If I'm looking at just regular courses, most of them don't last more than 1 day. So I just pull the start date, but you can pull the end date as well if you want to have both of that in there. I may want to know the instructor. I may not. I probably want to know the course type. And then there's all this other information, was there a survey required? Has it been marked completed? I can pull any of that in that I want. I'm just going to go with these 3 things from that top section. But then for my staff, I want to know who attended. So I'm going to go last name, first name. I want to know the email address because that's their account in our system. And I probably want to know where they're located. So I'm going to pull in school. But if I needed to know subject or grade level, if that's something I was looking for, I can pull those in as well. And then from the attendance section, I want to know the credit earned and the earned credit type. And I'm actually going to pull in categories also. I missed one that I wanted to pull from up here. I want course dimensions. So I'm going to pull that down at the bottom. So I can pull any fields into the report I want, or I could pull all of them in if I wanted to. But the power of this report comes when I can go in and narrow things down. So as Gaia showed, they can narrow it down to the categories that they have set up for their learner framework. I can go in and say, I want to filter, and it's going to show me all the categories that I have, and I can select what I want to include in this filter. I could do multiple filters to have multiple things. So if I wanted to know instructional strategies and another one, I could add a second filter and it would give me that other one. So maybe I want curriculum and instruction and instructional strategies. It's going to filter down to anything that is in either of those 2 categories. So I can put multiple filters on if I want to, or I can put a single filter on. I could also go in and say, we have noticed that a lot of our teachers have written goals on a specific dimension, or a lot of appraisers have created areas of reinforcement or refinement for a specific dimension. So I could go in and say, I want to add a filter, and it's going to show me all of the dimensions that are in there. Maybe the one that we have been seeing a lot is managing student behavior. So I could go in and see what all have we offered related to managing student behavior. And in this case, it would show me just one category. I probably wouldn't want to do both of those at the same time, but sometimes I might. And then I could also see what credit type did they earn and how many hours did they earn. So if I ran this report, I don't know what data I will get because I don't know how many of those sessions have actually been offered in my demo site, but I would get the report that would show me that information. Let me make this a little bit more readable. So you can see what kind of course it is. I can see the campuses. I can see the credit that was earned and the dimension that was related to that. So I would get all of that information based on that custom PD report. It gives you the ability to pull anything that you want to and filter on any of the elements that you've set up. So if I set up categories, I can filter on those categories. If I can even filter on my custom fields. So if I wanted to drag custom fields in there, I could add a filter there, and I could filter based on that rescheduled custom field that I have in there so that I could see, it would show me if they've got it listed as rescheduled, it would show me that. Only the ones that were. So that gives you a lot of flexibility for getting the data out that you want by putting in whatever criteria that you want. And then the goals report, I will pop over here and show you that one as well. It's up at the top section. Goals report. So here it is, and I can say I want to view the courses by goals. So it would list my district goals out, and then beneath the goal, the names of the courses. I could do goals by course, so it would list I think I said that backwards. No, yeah, it would list the courses and then the goal associated with that. Or I could list the goals by staff member. So I could show the number of users and get the names of the users who had attended courses that addressed those goals. So it's quick and easy to run. I just select the view that I want. Do I want the whole district or do I want a campus? If you're just a campus administrator, you would have just your campus access. If you're a district administrator, you could run for everybody. But that's going to give me information about how am I doing with creating and providing professional development related to those goals that I put into the system. Okay, I also want to talk about survey data. If you have surveys associated with your courses, you can get some information about that. Each course has a survey tab, and you can see the survey data for that specific course, that session, after the course has been marked complete. But if you want to have more data, you kind of have to do a little bit of finagling to get that to happen. So we'll talk about what the process would be. You'll determine where you want to gather that data, and you'll set it up by creating a generic account as an instructor. And you could call it professional learning, you could call it whatever you want to call it, but you would create an Eduphoria account and make them an instructor. And then you would select the survey that you want to use and assign it to the course. And then you're going to assign that generic instructor to every course. Because when you go in and look at the report by instructor, you'll be able to see all of that data. So I'm going to go back over to my system. I'm going to go to my settings, and I'm going to go to instructors, and I'm going to look at one of my administrators. If I go to survey results under that instructor, and let's say this was the instructor that was assigned to every course, when I look at the survey itself, I'm not sure. Yeah. If I look at the survey itself, it's going to show me a cumulative view of every survey for every course that this instructor was assigned to. So by having that generic instructor tied to every course, I can get all of my data in one place. I can see it as a cumulative view, or I can see it as a course view where I look at a specific course. But if I wanted to see all of that data from that survey, oops, that's not the right one, then I would select the survey in question and that generic instructor that was assigned to every course in order to get my overall ratings. So that's a way that you can get some survey data based on what you're putting into the system. All right, a couple of other topics. You can turn on submit a course. That's one of those options on the general options tab. So if I go back over here to general options, staff course suggestions is one of the features that you can turn on. If it's enabled for your district, then any user could go in to their portfolio, and they would have this button at the bottom that says submit a new course. And I could say, I just went to a conference and I learned something really cool and I would like to share it with the rest of my teachers, my teacher friends. I could volunteer to teach a course. I could put the title in, put myself as the instructor, put a description, all the things I think need to be included with that course. And then when I submit it, it's going to go to a professional development administrator who will review it. If they say, yeah, that's a great idea, they can convert it to a course, and then it goes in the catalog and it's ready for people to sign up for. I could also go in, and maybe it's not a course that I'm feeling prepared to teach myself, but a course that I feel like I need, and I could do it like a request. I need somebody to offer this course for me. I need a course about this. And then the professional development administrator could receive that request and say, oh, okay, we have somebody who could do that. And they could convert it to a course and assign it to that instructor. So it does a couple of things. It gets your end users involved in what they can offer and what they need to have offered. And it also makes it to where they've done part of the work for you when they submit it as an idea, and you can just click and convert it to a course and add those additional details. Another thing, and we mentioned this earlier, is conferences. Conferences is really its own session. So we wanted to have a slide in here to mention it. And we talked about it a little bit, and Gaia talked about how they're using it in Richardson. We do have some links here on the slide deck that you'll get to some articles in the online help guide, and also to a recent webinar that we hosted about conferences, so you can get some more information there. But it looks very much like what you see on the screen. Your users can click on conferences. Once they have registered for the conference, they'll see all of the offerings. They can click on the little person icon to sign up for a session. You'll see once I've signed up for something, I get the little check mark there, and I can see the other sessions offered at that time, but I can't enroll in anything else at that time. And I also have learning tracks where I can narrow it down to those specific things that I'm interested in. And then finally, I wanted to mention eCourses. eCourses gives you digital asynchronous learning for your users. So you can build the content and they can take the courses on their own time. It's not a face-to-face. It's not something that they have to be at a certain place at a certain time, but you can embed videos, links, documents, slide decks. You can deliver content in a variety of ways. You can add assessments, so you can build quizzes in there, both content quizzes and acknowledgement type documents. You can configure it to automate the content delivery and self-grade, or it can be instructor graded. And then you can also deliver customized content using virtual and self-paced methods. So again, that's a whole nother session really, but we wanted to mention it because it is part of Strive. You have it, you can use it if you want to. It's something you can turn on that general options page. And then we have a link here to articles and also to a webinar that we did about eCourses. I'm going to turn it back over to Allison to wrap us up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And actually, Paige, before I let you off the hook, we do have 2 questions in the
Okay.
chat. And I did answer one in the chat, but I just was hoping you could show where who can see how to submit courses.
So any user, and let me hope that if I go in as a teacher, that I'm set up correctly, but I can go in as a teacher and I can go to my professional learning and go to my portfolio. And if that feature is turned on to my district, then I will have that submit courses option right there, and I will be able to submit.
Perfect.
So it is an all or nothing turning on. Once you turn it on, anybody can submit a course. If you wanted to have a more limited group submitting courses, then another option would be to use the workflow and have limited course creators that would go through an approval process.
Also, somebody tossed about the idea of using eCourses for compliance. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I just love a good bloodborne pathogen training every year. It just gets me all excited. eCourses is great for that. The question is, how is credit issued on eCourses?
Very good question. So I'm showing an example from my demo site that is actually the annual compliance training in eCourse format. When the user goes in, they'll be able to view the course content. Once all of these sections in the course have a green check mark, then up at the top, this button, and I've already requested it, but this button would say request credit. And you would click on that button and request the credit. Depending on how the e-course is set up, it might go to somebody who would review it, or it might automatically grant you credit. I could set up this course to say there's a quiz in every chapter, and if they make 80% or better on all of their quizzes, then they automatically get credit. And if that's the case, when I request credit, it's going to look at my scores and it's going to say, yes, you got credit. And then it's done. It's automatic. If I go back in and look at the course details, for me, it is showing that my objective score was 100%, which met the passing score of 80%. And so my credit has been earned. And that was an automated thing because this was the criteria set up for this particular course.
The follow-up question is, even if it's for Region 10 compliance videos?
So if it's Region 10 compliance videos, you have a couple of options. This course is set up to have actual content in the course. It could be that you have an e-course that's set up with a link to go to the Region 10 videos, and then they come back and they just either take the quiz or do. Sometimes the quiz is really, I'll show the final acknowledgement. Let me see if I can go in and look at that one. If I go in and view this chapter, it's set up as a quiz, but it says in order to ensure you receive credit, you have to say, I agree that I've read all of this and I know what I'm talking about here. So I would click yes, and it's just an acknowledgement. So it may be that they just acknowledge I vouch for the fact that I watched all the videos, and they check acknowledgement, then that could be their credit. Or you could put the quiz, you could make a quiz that they go out and watch all the videos from Region 10 and they come back here and take a quiz, and that's how they get credit. So it could be that they start here and then they link out to another source.
Fantastic. I love all those solutions, and it really helps. I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about our dazzling end of the year checklist. It's basically a graphic organizer for the folks that run Eduphoria in your district. So it's probably many of you on this webinar. So this is an end of the year checklist that really just helps you think through what needs to happen at the end of the year, who's coordinating when you want to set that deadline for completion. This also includes great interactive guides from our online help guide that talking about archiving and things of that nature. So it's just a really great way to think through, because we know y'all have so many things you're trying to think through right now as you wrap up the end of the year. And so the end of the year checklist is really just that handy little tool in your toolbox to put a bow on your ear with put a bow on your year with all things, or you can put it on your ear, whichever makes you feel fancy, for all things Eduphoria. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You know, we love to keep in touch with y'all, training@eduphoria.net. And we also want to, we are so excited for Ms. Gaia Jefferson, who is with us today. If you want to continue the conversation with Gaia, she is a wealth of information. I adore working with her. And there is her contact information. She has great ideas, and it's just an absolute joy to work with. So you can reach out to Gaia as well. Without that contact information. Perfect.
Again, thank you, Gaia, for sharing all of the things
Thank
that
you,
Richardson is
Gaia.
doing. Those are great examples, and we really
Thank y'all
appreciate
for the opportunity. Dr. Ralston Page, it has been a joy, as always.
it.
We
Well,
really
thank
love
you.
working with you.
And thanks everybody who attended. We appreciate y'all.
Yes, we send you all the good vibes as you finish out your May and your end of the year, and let us know how we can support you. Thanks so much for attending today, y'all.